Mistress of Mixtures. Starting off with a gem. People remember Zombie Chow being insane, and this is for one less toughness, you either give them one less life or you gain four instead of zero. Uh, yeah, I mean, Zombie Chow was like more of a control card than aggro card anyway. Some board control mid-range aggressive decks like some Zoo variants would play it, but the environment is more conducive to a 2-2 for one, and the fact that it heals both players is insane. Having Death Rattle also has its own benefits. And lastly, I always am weird about one mana cards, one mana minions because of Joust. What is it called? Clash. No. Joust. Joust, right? Yeah. Anyway. Logo Sniper, meh. If Murlocs need another 2-drop, which I don't think they do, then this one's fine. Otherwise, just like an arena card. Friendly Bartender, 2-3 for 2. At the end of your turn, restore 1 health to your hero. Sure. Sure. More arena stuff. I mean, this is neutral commons. Very few of them are going to be breaking through into ranked. Let me move this over. Sup, Bar knows best. How you doing? Unlimited Gaming. Gadgetzan Socialite. 2 mana 2/2 Battlecry, restore 2 health. Again, mostly arena. I mean, Earthen Ring Farseer is great, so maybe this sees play, but 3 and 2 are pretty different. But things that can heal your minions, not just your face, much better. Backstreet Leper, Death Rattle deal 2 damage to enemy hero. Poop. Hired Gun, 4/3 taunt for 3. It's actually fine. So when Hearthstone first came out, or rather when I first started playing, yes, the Master. In case you don't know, my dear friend Tim Ayton was on Jeopardy on Friday to great success. But when Hearthstone first came out, or at least when I started playing, which was a ways after it came out, 4/3 was a really, really bad stat point because the game was defined by 3/2s for 2. That is no longer the case. The benchmark for 2 mana is now 2/3, which I think has a lot to do with there being a lot more 2/2s, 2/3s, and 2/1s at 1 mana. Meaning, which lends itself to the 2-drops, 2/3 being better than 3/2, which now means that you can't just trade up a mana for free, which was the problem with 4/3s for 3 in the past. That being said, this thing's not that impressive. Not many people are chomping at the bit to play the Grizzly Bear, Iron Fur Bear, and this is a very, very small upgrade. Maybe if it was a mech or something, you could do something cute with it, but whatever. 0/7 for 3 mana, spell damage +1, demon. If there are things that require demons, it could be good. 7 stat points for 3 is about the going rate, and you get a spell damage. The problem is the distribution of stats makes no sense, because the 0/7 makes no sense. But if there are things that really want demons in play, or really want spell damage, maybe it's okay, but I doubt it. Toxic Sewer Ooze, 3 mana 4/3. Again, this stat point is much better than it used to be, but you still greatly prefer a 3/4 for 3. Because even when you talk about the difference between 3/2s for 2 and 2/3s for 2, trading up, this just costs them a hero power, whereas the 3/4, if they have the 3/2, it costs them hero power, and if they have the 2/3, then they can't trade profitably, or it'll cost them 2 hero powers over 2 turns. So yeah, you still prefer 3/4 at this stat point. But remove 1 durability from your opponent's weapon. This is really close to just killing the weapon. A lot of the weapons that you want to kill are things like Gorehowl or what's the True Silver Champion, there's a lot of things that have one durability more. Like when it's your turn, their equipment is at one durability, and there's a ton of equipment running around with pirates and whatnot. So I can actually see this card seeing some play. The problem is that it doesn't really fit anywhere. Nobody could really afford slots for it, even though its effect is actually better than it looks. 3-3 for 4, Daring Reporter. Whenever your opponent draws a card, gain +1/+1. So it's a 4-4 on their turn for 4, which is just below par, but threatens to grow more than that. I mean, they're not going to jam card drawing, and you don't really want to, because you get the turn back with it as a 4-4. So unless you can eat something, you're just going for the face for 4 until to make sure that it gets the second pump, because once it's 5-5 for 4, now you're talking, a profitable mana exchange. But that's pretty hard to pull off. I think that the point of this card is to do something like Cold Light Oracles, but that is not effective, because if you're playing Cold Light Oracles, you're either hyper aggro, where a 4-mana dork is not what you want, or you are mill, where a 4-mana dork is not what you want. 2-6 for 4. Battlecry, restore a minion to full health. Sure. Again, 8 stat points for 4 is just below par, but the ability is potentially good. The problem is that things trade or are killed. There's not a ton of minions that you'll get back with damage on them. It happens, but it doesn't happen often enough, and this effect isn't profitable enough that I don't think this card's actually going to be good. But it's an arena playable for sure. 4-4 for 4. Swap the attack and health of a minion. Great. Super awesome arena effect. Just nonsense for ranked, unless there's some insane combo. Nega Corsair, 4-mana 5-4. Battlecry, give your weapon 1 attack. See, this is the stat point you want. 9 for 4. Give your weapon +1 attack. And it's a pirate, which we'll be getting to some pretty sick pirates. I think that this is just below the line of playability, but I like it as a card. It's a good common. This version's good for killing Doomsayers. Doesn't scale up well. Yeah, the Crazed Alchemist. The Crazed Alchemist is the body's too low impact, and this is the mana cost is too high. So clearly, this effect is just not worthwhile. At least at the rates they're giving it to us. 4-4 for 4. Battlecry, if your opponent's hand is empty, gain charge. Bad. Nonsense. If you're winning, then get this extra ability that is not likely to matter that much. No thanks. 6-3 for 4. I love vanillas when they can find them. 9 for 4 is the correct rate, but the distribution's not good. Again, in Hearthstone, if you're unaware, health is much better than power, and 3 health is just begging to be trading down. But I don't think anybody was expecting a vanilla thing to be good here in the 4 slot. Plenty of what's the word for boxing out? Competition, I guess. There's plenty of competition for this, for a 4-mana body. 5-mana, 3-5 Wind Fury. Sure. Again, arena. 5-mana, 2-6. Whenever you cast a spell, gain 2 attack. This thing is actually pretty close to constructible. I don't know if it's quite there, but if there is a Miracle-esque deck, which it seems like there is or could be, then this is actually a pretty solid win condition. You don't get to do combo kills like you used to. There's no Leroy, Shadow Step, Cold Blood nonsense. And there's not really an effective way to convert a ton of cards in one turn. But this thing is Yeah, it's a double mana worm for 5x the cost, but you get to play it in Rogue, which is the actual important part. Because like I don't think you would ever really want to play this in Mage, but the fact that you can play it in Rogue means that it might have actual applications. Even against Priest, like if you just play this and play one spell, then it has 4 power, which is the sweet spot against Priest. So, or just stealth it, which is more likely, and then just go off and they just die. So yeah, that could definitely see play in that spot. 5 mana 4/6. Battlecry, enemy minions lose stealth. This is an interesting card because it's not good, right? Like its stat line is just below par, and its ability is kind of weird nonsense. But this is a developer outlet. This is a safety switch. What do you call it? Release. Pull the ripcord. That's what this is. This is a developer ripcord. Because they play a lot with stealth in this set, and stealth in general is kind of scary. As you may remember, the sort of questionable at the time, although I did a video on it, or a stream about it. No, it was a video. I don't remember. About the Master of Disguise nerf. This is like a continuation of that. They want to do cool, interesting, new stuff with stealth, but it is, yeah, safety valve, release valve. They make this card that's like just not playable, so that if a deck that relies on stealth becomes oppressive, there is a utility card. There is something that the deck builders can use to metagame against it, especially for tournament play. So that's why this card exists, and I love that it exists. Smart. It's not like they have to nerf a card later. They just let the metagame develop and let the community, let the deck builders solve their own problem. 6 mana 3/8 arena, whatever, the next up the line of Fen Creepers. 6 mana 1/1 Battlecry, summon a 6/6 Ogre. So this is actually 7/7 stats for 6. The distribution is a little weird because a 1/1 is not effective. But it's 6, so like you could play it in Defender of Argus and get extra value. It gets under Big Game Hunter, and yeah, like the 1/1 is just asking to be pinged, but in Arena you could do stuff like on 8 play this and then Brewmaster it, stuff like that. Cool design, cool card, gonna be pretty good in Arena. Not constructible, obviously. I mean, you can't look at this card and Karen and Sylvanas and be like, yeah. Small Time Buccaneer, a 1/2 for 1 that has +2 attack while you have a weapon equipped. This thing is like the reason to be playing Pirates, and the Pirate deck is insane. Yeah, 3/2 for 1. You have plenty of equipment, plenty of cheap equipment, plenty of equipment with durability. You have the 1/1 that gives you a 1/3 equipment. This card's just great, and is the backbone of the new Pirate aggro tempo deck. Backroom Bouncer, 4/4 for 4. Whenever a friendly minion dies, gain 1 attack. I mean, this is a more expensive but slightly larger of the 2/3, the Flesh Eater Ghoul. But it's only friendly, and that card was already not good. Like this card is just bad. Bomb Squad, 5 mana 2/2. Battlecry, deal 5 damage to an enemy minion. Death Rattle, deal 5 damage to your hero. I don't actually know if this targets or not. If it targets, it's great. If it doesn't, it's not. It's going to be kind of hard to construct with it. You definitely could, but nobody's really nipping at the bud to play Bomb Lobbers and construct it. But in Arena, it's great. Again, things like Brewmaster and all that good stuff. You do get to target? Yeah, then I like this thing in Arena. It's almost certainly not constructible, though. Doppelgangster. That's a great... Can we just take a moment before we even read it? That is a great card name. The The Doppelgangster. A 2/2 for 5. Battlecry summon 2 copies of this minion. This is like the precursor golem. Sure. I mean, it's like the 3/3 thing. The God, what I can't remember the Hearthstone card names. It's because I play with it on mute, so I don't get the brain registering the audio. Patron. So Patron was super busted and awesome, and then once they took out the combo usage for it, then it just became kind of a medium value card. That's basically what this is, with less investment up front. And I was about to say, and it works well. It works well with the things that pump something in your hand, which are almost unanimously terrible. But we'll get to those. So yeah, it has some uses, like, you have a mist caller trigger active, then you get 3/3s instead. Like, there's some stuff to do with it. 5 mana, 4/5 taunt. Costs 2 less if your opponent has at least 3 minions. This one's weird. The problem is if your opponent has 3 minions, and the difference between 3 and 5 mana is that huge, you're probably dead anyway. But a 4/5 taunt for 5 isn't that bad in Arena. Oops. And, you play, like, Tazdingo's seen a ton of play. And this isn't that far off of a Tazdingo. It's great for doubling down in the mid game. I don't think that this is on first glance, this card looks like a Save Your Hide card when you're behind, and I don't think that's what it is. I think it's a flip the tables in the mid game card. If it's playable at all, which might be. 5 mana, 5/5. Battlecry. If an enemy minion has taunt, gain charge. Now this makes more sense than the other thing, where if they didn't have hands, it gets charged. This makes sense. Like, if my opponent has a taunter, then I want charge, so I can kill it, right? Better than Booty Bay Bodyguard. Yeah, you're not wrong. The problem is that 5 mana thing that might have charge is not exactly what an aggro deck is looking for. But from a design perspective, this card makes more sense to me. I don't think it's going to be playable, though. Epic. The Weasel Tunneler. A 1/1 for 1. Death Rattle. Shuffle this minion into your opponent's deck. I actually weirdly like this card because there's not much interaction in Hearthstone, and I really like the idea of putting dead cards in their deck. Like Excavated Evil is, most people see Excavated Evil's shuffle it in as a drawback, but it's like, oh man, I get this sweet Wrath, but then they get it in their deck. It's like, no, you get a Wrath, and then they get like an ineffective Wrath. Excuse me. So lose charge if the taunter dies? No. I don't think so. Because it battle cries. So if they have taunt, then it just has charge. Adam009999 says yes, but I'm not sure. But I like this effect, and it's cool, but a 1/1 for 1, I mean, it's a beast. Maybe Hunter wants to play it, but Hunter's not trying to play a long game where you're putting duds into their deck that they have to draw. So this is not the right execution for this card for it to be playable, but I like the effect. Dirty Rat. 2/6 taunts for 2. Battlecry. Your opponent summons a random minion from their hand. So this is like proactive Death Eater, Death Lord. Hmm. The problem is if they're like a creatureless deck or a really creature light deck, then 2/6 isn't that good. And if they do have minions, then you don't want to play this. I like the idea that you can rob them of a battle cry, but beyond that, I'm not so sure that this thing works. I'll pick Weasel from Dark Peddler a lot. There you go. Not good enough to put in the deck, but definitely good enough to Dark Peddler. Yeah, I like the idea of stealing battle cries, but it's gonna put a little it's gonna take a little more work put into this guy to make it good. The Blubber Baron, 3 mana 1/1. Whenever you summon a battle cry minion while this card is in your hand, gain +1/+1. Sure, uh, I guess. The problem with these cards that count stuff while they're in your hand is that the opportunity cost is huge, right? Because you not only do you have to have this card, but you have to not play it. Like it has to just sit there and rot, um, which is a pretty high opportunity cost. Like that card could be something that you could have cast. Uh, that being said, it's probably like a 3/3 or better for 3 most of the time, but I don't like cards like this, and the rate would have to be a little more impressive for me to want to invest time and effort into it. Yeah, Gammon, exactly. Like if you can have removal ready or whatever and like steal their Gadgetzan, like make them play their miracle play their Gadgetzan auctioneer when you can kill it before they draw cards. Like there's some sweet stuff that you can do with it for sure. It's just I don't know. It seems a little too narrow. That's all. 3 mana, 3/7. The start of your turn, deal 2 damage to this minion. So it's a 3/5 and then a 3/3. That's probably pretty good. Yeah, Bliven, exactly. Blubber Baron, this type of card is just not like from a theoretical standpoint is not what I want to be doing. Super high variance for not that high of a payoff, etc., etc. This thing seems great though. It's a good rate already, and then if you have like Circle of Healings and stuff, you can actually go ham. Yeah, Priest just. I think this thing's sweet. Burgly Bully, 5 mana 4/6. Whenever your opponent casts a spell, add coin to your hand. No thanks. Not that great. Coins aren't that good, especially after it's turn 5 and your opponent's cast spells. And the body's not that impressive. And if coin is really good, they could just not play spells. Some percentage of the time, they could just like attack this thing or whatever. Not into it. 6 mana 5/7. Battle Cry, silence a minion with Death Rattle. So this is the Black Knight for Death Rattlers, sort of. It's not very effective, but its body's a lot better. 5/7 instead of 4/5. Like, I think if there were a ton of cards like Sludge Belcher and stuff in Standard, this might see play in the mid-range decks, but there's not too much of that. It's really polarized on the aggression spectrum. So, yeah, I'm not totally impressed with this one. I'd like to see one that hurts itself minion. Help the priest turn to hero power problem. Meh. I don't think that the priest hero turn to hero power problem is like unsolved, you know? Yeah, there's the injured Calgier guy. 5 out of 7. 6.5 out of 10. 6 mana 4/4. If you control a minion with 6 or more health, draw 2 cards. The body's super not impressive. I like the art though. Um, I don't know. If you have 6 mana and a huge minion, maybe you're already ahead. And maybe drawing 2 cards isn't enough to have to set up all this investment and have a 4/4 and most of your turn taken up to then only have a 4/4 for board impact. This card's really close to awesome, but I don't think it's quite there. The numbers aren't pushed quite enough. 6 mana 6/6 battle cry. If your opponent has 6 or more cards in hand, gain charge. Sure, it's close enough. I like that art too. I guess I like the pink mohawks. Um, yeah, I don't know. Meh. Situational 6/6 charge. You're related to James McAvoy. I am not, as far as I know. He's he's Scottish, right? That'd be pretty weird. I found out he was some distant relative. Not sure the Hollard is very good. No, I think it's like very bad. Sorry if I didn't make that clear. 6 mana 5/5. Whenever this attacks a minion and survives, draw a card. I kind of like this thing. I like the art on this guy too. Look at him. He's a wind up Burglebot. Reminds you of Futurama. I like this thing. It's value. I like mechs that do stuff, but I don't know if a 6 mana 5/5 is going to be playable in any constructed format. But I bet you could really snowball hard with it in Arena. Neutral Legendaries. Patches the Pirate. So this is the one that people are losing their minds over. A 1/1 for 1 charge Pirate, which is important. After you play a Pirate, summon this minion from your deck. It actually fundamentally changes the way that you mulligan, because you want to like mulligan less cards when you have patches in your deck, because you want to minimize your chance of drawing patches, because if you just draw it, then it's terrible. There's no way to like get it back into your deck. So you have a 1/1 for 1 as one of your cards, rather than a free 1/1 for 1. But yeah, I mean, this thing's really good value. It's just good. A free 1/1 charge on turn 1 or 2 in a aggro tempo deck is kind of exactly what the doctor ordered. Should be a lose your mind card, but it's a card I'm gonna end up. Yeah. I don't think anybody should be losing their mind over it, but I definitely think that it's like worth crafting. Like, it's a good card. You want to have this in your collection and play with it. You know. College Brainstorm back. I wish. Gang up into your deck. Not sure that's worth the gang up, but that's Patches. That's one of the defining cards of the set, because it really is one of the couple cards that pushes Pirate aggro. The Auction Master Beardo. 3 mana 3/4. This is the stat point you want. After you cast a spell, refresh your hero power. This is a weird one, because whenever you cast a spell, do a thing is... the first thing I think of is Miracle. But this doesn't work with Miracle Rogue, because refreshing your dagger is not useful. So this is like a weird late game mage card, at which point why don't you just play Caldara Drake? I guess because you could play this on turn 3. Just as a body against aggro. I don't know. I'm sure there's something cool you can do with this. I don't know what it is yet. Sergeant Sally. 3 mana 1/1. Death Rattle. Deal damage equal to this minion's attack to all enemy minions. So this is supposed to work with the pump something in your hand thing. Also, pretty sure the free hero power guy and some... Yeah, there might be something there, but it sounds like a lot of work, and then you still have to kill them, you know? Also agreed, Auction Master Beardo should have a beard. Yeah, this card is going to have its uses in various control decks that can utilize it, but it takes a little setting up. I don't know, it's a weird card for sure. Genzo the Shark. A 5/4 for 4, which is about what you want stat-wise. 9 points. You'd rather have it distributed 4/5, or 3/6 for that matter. Whenever this attacks, both players draw until they have 3 cards. Sally, really good in Arena Lock for Power Overwhelming. There you go. You cracked it. We found it. Which is good, because PO got lost some usability when the Arcane Golem OTK got nerfed. Genzo the Shark is a fine card. It's super aggressive. It's what Jeeves wants to grow up to be. You have more control over it, but you have to like play it and pass the turn, which is a huge cost. I don't think that you want to be relying on this thing because it'll die too often, but it might be good to play just as a, hey, if you don't kill this, I win, and if you do, then like my other stuff's still killing you. Finja, the Flying Star, because what Hearthstone was missing was a Ninja Murloc. 2/4 Stealth. Whenever this attacks and kills a minion, summon 2 Murlocs from your deck. The problem is that a 5 mana Murloc that doesn't affect the board until the turn after is not exactly what most Murloc decks want to be doing. Most Murloc decks are like crazy blitz aggro decks. Oh, excuse me. This also robs hiccups. And a yawn. Are you seeing this? Oh, my body's falling apart. You want to cast a lot of your Murlocs because they have abilities. And running out of things... Like, getting swept is the problem with Murlocs. And this doesn't really help with that. Because if they, like, play a Hellfire and blow up your board, this has nothing to kill. Not into it. Madame Goya, 6 mana, 4/3. Battlecry, choose a friendly minion, swap it with a minion in your deck. I actually like this card. It's going to be kind of hard to use, but I like things like Recombobulator, and this kind of feels like that, a way worse version of that, but with more control, right? The ability is way less powerful, but you have way more control over it, so there might be something to do with this. It reminds me a lot of Polymorph from Magic, where you play a bunch of things that aren't minions, but make minions. Things like Living Roots, Power of the Wild, tokens, right? You make tokens, and then the only minion in your deck is whatever insane, huge mana minion you want it to be. And then you can Madame Goya any of your tokens into one of those huge things. Whoops. Which I'm not even sure what that minion would be, because you don't even get to battlecry it. But I don't think you choose, but excuse me. That's why you only put like 2 huge minions in your deck, plus this thing, plus tokens. You could also just play like Paladin control with this thing, and then your minions are like Tyrion and Ragnaros, you know? Gonna choose itself? No. Burns in your Shirji. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do with this. It's polymorph. 6 mana, 4/5 taunt. Battlecry, draw cards until you draw one that isn't a dragon. Honestly, 6 mana, 4/5 taunt, Battlecry, draw a card is close to good enough. Right? If you took off 1 mana, you get rid of taunt and a toughness, and you get back spell power for Azure Drake, like a consummate staple. Then, if you hit a dragon, you can draw 2 cards, and so on. So, without having done the math, I bet this draws about 1.7 cards, 1.66 cards, something like that. It's pretty good. It's pretty damn good. The only question then would be how much competition is there for 6 mana things in your dragon deck that aren't dragons. That's the other thing is card draw and cantrips and stuff in dragon decks are really important because you need to make sure that you can play your cards but also still have a dragon in hand to proc your things that need you to have a dragon. 9 mana 5/4 Noggin Fogger. All targets are chosen randomly. I mean, this is just a nonsense card. Casual fun.